From a run to the grocery store to running on a treadmill, life as we know it has changed. Jason Barr visited one local gym that decided to exercise some caution.
Soon to be 80-year-old Margie Reinhardt has a message for me at Sabino Canyon.
Please don't get too close because I'm being extra cautious.
She and her friend are here for some fresh air. Others for exercise. Jordan Schaefer also worked out at a public gym this morning.
Be more concerned about passing it on to other elderly people.
That was probably a big reason that the gym was pretty empty too, is that the area we're in is a lot of older people, so it was pretty empty.
Here at Old Pueblo CrossFit, the strategy had been just to wipe everything down. But the gym, which was open this morning, is now closed temporarily. The owners shutting it down as of now out of an abundance of caution for concern due to the coronavirus. Dulcinea and Amos Sotelo taking the White House advice to avoid groups of more than 10 people.
But I do have to think about the community at large and how the more active people are, the more likely it is to continue to spread. And we just have that responsibility to our community, both those people who could be affected by the virus and then our healthcare workers and our healthcare system that, can't handle it if we do see a rise in our community.
Back at Sabino Canyon, Ms. Reinhardt remembers the day when people rationed oil. Now, she's rationing something much different.
Very little hand sanitizer because the stores are out of that. They're out of disinfectant wipes, but we're just trying to be as careful as we can.
Jason Barr, KGUN 9 on your side.
And the Catholic Diocese of Tucson is suspending Mass until April the 6th. And while the church will keep an eye on CDC recommendations, they're also working to make online services available. Weddings and funerals will continue, but will be limited to 10 people, and confessionals are still available.
Right, weddings and funerals, we're following the CDC guidelines, and we're suggesting that they keep it to a minimum, the smallest number possibly less than 10 if we can do that. So we're certainly going to go ahead and let people get married. We're going to go ahead and bury the dead. Those are those are major celebrations in the Catholic world. So we're not going to cancel them, but we're going to do our best to do them consistent with the CDC guidelines.
And now to the extensive precautions underway all across the country, including some local businesses that are feeling the financial losses caused by the virus. Now on your side, Susdelia Caballero spoke to the owner of a local brewing company who's seeing a major drop in sales.
We saw a drop in sales overnight.
S. Turan, the CEO of Borderlands Brewing Company, says they're losing money daily.
Our events, we've lost a potential revenue of $16,000. Just from regular taproom sales without including events, it's over $18,000. Now, if we consider the food revenue that we're also losing there, it's $10,000.
That's a monthly loss of about $45,000. And while he says employees use good hygiene practices, washing hands and cleaning surfaces regularly, they're amping up their precautions.
Right when you walk in, there's sanitizers. We have to remove some stools from our bar just to make sure that people aren't sitting too close together.
Precautions the Pima County Health Department agrees with.
What we're more concerned with is maybe social distancing, practicing those types of behaviors at this time.
Ayla Kapai, the head brewer at Borderlands, says same procedures go in production.
It's normal for anyone who's working in this facility to always wear gloves, closed-toed shoes, eye protection, but in between glove usage, we're frequently washing our hands.
And while she says they're losing money, production is still going strong.
What's doing really well right now is all of our canned packaged products, so people can pick up our 4-packs at their grocery store. They can come into our tap room and purchase those as well.
So even though Borderlands is taking a big economic hit right now, they're confident they will bounce back.
The Tucson community is great.
I think when things are a little bit smoother, folks are going to want to come out and they're going to want to celebrate and hopefully drink some delicious beers that they haven't been able to have in a while.
They really show up and help small businesses.
And from Tucson to Washington, D.C., new guidelines for Americans have been issued from the White House during the coronavirus pandemic. Now, many of the guidelines aren't new, but today President Donald Trump said that Americans should avoid gathering in groups of more than 10. He also says we should stay away from bars, restaurants, food courts, and only travel if necessary. And an important first step in the fight against the coronavirus happened today. A patient in a COVID-19 vaccine trial in the U.S. was given their first dose. The National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases is funding the trial, and the study will be done in a 6-week time frame. Now, this goes with 45 healthy adults. They'll receive injections in various doses, but experts say proving the vaccine is effective in preventing COVID-19 follows regular, follow-up studies that can take months to complete. And Wall Street went into a tailspin today. The Dow lost nearly 3,000 points, the worst point drop on record. It's close to a 13% loss and the worst percentage loss for the index since 1987. The fall triggered a trading shutdown earlier today, and investors continue to worry that COVID-19, that outbreak, will ultimately lead to a recession. All right, Kyler Dix is here with a check on the forecast. And Kyler, I think you said there's some rain on the way.
There is, and it comes off of what was a beautiful weekend and a gorgeous start to the week. Today, we saw highs approaching 80 degrees in most locations, and look at that. In Tucson, we actually did make 80 degrees this afternoon officially at the airport. 63 in Cholo. It was really a nice day most everywhere we looked on the map. And right now, not bad, 64 degrees in Tucson, 58 degrees in Sierra Vista, it's 52 in Douglas, and 60s as you head to the west. We do have some clouds moving in. Increasing clouds means there's some changes on the way. There it is right there. Another Pacific storm system is moving on shore. We're going to let you know the impacts of that storm on our weather coming up here in a little bit in the forecast.
All right, thank you, Kyler. Arizona state parks are still open, and tonight we will take you on a trip just outside of Benson to show you what makes Karshner Caverns absolutely Arizona. You're watching KGUN 9 News on the CW. And welcome back. Arizona state parks are still open during this coronavirus pandemic, and places like Karshner Caverns are inviting you to take advantage of our wonderful state parks. In this encore presentation, we find out after 20 years what makes it absolutely Arizona.
We have piles of bat guano in the cave that date to 45,000 years ago. Wow. So bats have been
known about it for at least 45,000 years.
Yes, bats have known about it for a very, very long time.
For most of that 45,000 years, bats were the main inhabitants of that cave. But in November of 1974, Randy Tufts and his U of A roommate Gary Tenen explored a sinkhole in the limestone hills not far from Benson.
And at the end of that crawlway was what we called the blowhole. The air was just blowing out of that hole. We had a little sledgehammer and chisels, and we hammered away at that hole in the limestone until it was large enough for, I was smaller than he was, so I went through first and hammered from the other side and got in.
Gary and Randy had discovered a nearly 2.5 mile long limestone cave they called Xanadu.
We immediately realized that what we found was significant. It was 3/8 of a mile from a road. You could stand on the hill and see the trucks go by. And so we agonized over how to protect it.
Gary and Randy did tell the Karchner family who owned the land. Together they kept the secret for over a decade while they formulated a plan to protect the cave.
We educated ourselves about conservation through commercialization. That if you can turn it into economic resource, if you can turn it into something that the public cherishes, that can provide the framework and mechanism for long-term stewardship.
In the mid-'80s, they brought in Arizona State Park officials.
What Randy and I were very good at is never accepting the wrong answer.
It took many years for them to get the right answers. Finally, in 1999, Gary and Randy's idea of making Karchner Caverns a state park became a reality. Now Karchner Caverns is celebrating its 20th anniversary. A short tram ride takes you to one of the two cave tours. There's the Rotunda Throne Room tour and the Big Room tour that I recently took with Park Ranger Jennifer Woodrum. There are multiple doors to pass through, which helps maintain the cave's constant temperature in the low 70s and the 98 to 99% humidity. Then what you see is breathtaking. Stalactites and stalagmites in various colors, and other formations you've likely never seen before.
This is a formation known as bacon, or a bacon drapery. It's a drapery formation. And the reason it's called bacon is because it's got those stripes of color in it that make it resemble bacon. It's called the strawberry room because of all of the bright reds that you can see. This is also one of the areas in the big room that we will see much more water input if we've gotten a lot of rain. These formations are known as plate shields, and they are formed by water under pressure. So if you can imagine putting your thumb over the end of your garden hose and you picture what that water looks like, it'll fan out under pressure. The same thing is happening with these formations. These are called halictites. Specifically, these are antler halictites because they resemble an elk's or a deer's antlers.
Yeah. Back to those bats. The big room also hosts about 1,500 bats each summer who use Kartchner as a maternity ward. The big room closes from mid-April to mid-October. Sadly, Randy Tuss passed away in 2002, leaving Gary Tennant as the lone steward of his Xanadu. As Kartchner Caverns reaches its 20th birthday, he continues his tireless efforts to preserve the caves.
We want the cave, as you saw it, and as people see it today, as Randy and I saw it, is to be the same experience that people have hundreds of years from now.
Continuing cave stewardship and cave education, working with other caves around the world to make sure that we're doing justice to all caves.
Thank you so much for the tour, Jennifer. Absolutely Arizona's Kartchner Caverns. Thank you.
Now, your first warning weather with Kyler Diggs.
All righty, 80 degrees was the high, as I mentioned earlier, in Tucson today. So a beautiful way to start the week, but we've got some big changes on the horizon. 47 degrees. That's where we got started this morning. Actually, that was just 1 degree above the average low of 46 degrees on this date. 74 is the average high. We're going to be dropping these temperatures back down below average as we go into the middle of the week. 95 and 24 are the records on this date. Currently, it's 64 degrees at the airport in Tucson, 29 degrees on the dew point. The air's pretty dry, so we're not going to hang on to that heat much overnight tonight. But with the cloud cover moving in, it'll help act as a blanket, so we won't see the temperatures dropping off all too much, but still dropping down into the 50s. So a light jacket probably will feel good in the morning. And then those clouds will just continue to increase a little bit, but still for St. Patrick's Day, not bad. It's going to be warm and windy at times. Highs in the mid-70s as we await the arrival of that next storm system. 38 degrees right now in Flagstaff, so there's what I'm talking about, this dry air with no cloud cover in Flagstaff, just allowing that heat to escape right into the atmosphere. But where we do have the cloud cover, we're still in the 60s and 70s. A little bit of light rain in San Diego. We've seen some light rain in LA as well, and I think you can see that pretty clearly on the radar and satellite picture. Let's zoom in to the west coast there, and this is our next storm system that is coming on shore. So a couple of things are going to happen here. This low pressure system is diving down along the coast, and then it'll help to scoop up some of that subtropical moisture as well and combine it with the moisture we've already got with this storm system. So a good chance of showers and thunderstorms coming back into the forecast. I know you're saying, yeah, we heard all about that last week and we barely got a trace. Well, this one is a little bit different in nature because it's got some colder air with it, and it'll tap into a little bit more moisture on Wednesday. In fact, with some instability, we'll probably see some thunderstorms as well. And then because of that colder air, we're going to drop the snow levels down a little bit lower with this one, down to around 5,000 feet. And this will all happen Wednesday into Thursday. And then by Thursday night, this one is pretty much out of here again and opening the door for yet another chance of thunderstorm and shower activity, and maybe even a little mountain snow by next Monday. So still plenty to talk about in weather, and overnight tonight we'll see temperatures dropping into the 40s and 50s. And then as we head on into tomorrow with those clouds around, it'll still be pretty nice. 60s and lower 70s across Cochise County, 70 in Nogales, 69 in Ajo, and low to mid 70s around the metro area with nearly 50 degrees in Summerhaven. Taking a look at the 7-day forecast, so here we go. On Wednesday, a chance of those showers and thunderstorms, and notice how the temperatures really do drop off with this particular storm system. In fact, on Thursday, I think we'll struggle to reach 60 degrees, and then it clears out, warms up just in time for the weekend, gets windy on Sunday as we get ready for yet another change in the weather next Monday. And as far as rainfall totals on Wednesday, we're probably looking at around 1/4 to 1/2 inch, maybe a little bit more in some locations, and a few inches of snow above 7,000 feet. Chandrea?
Tomorrow is Arizona's presidential preference election, and despite the outbreak, Democrats will be casting their ballots, their votes. Republicans opted out since President Donald Trump is seeking re-election. Pima County election officials say some poll workers have declined to work, but they do have enough staffers to handle the demand. Today, voters also had an option to vote early.
Avoiding the crowds.